A look now at Hartsville-Jackson, which would see some shakeups by a shutdown. Yeah, security and air traffic control will remain open during a shutdown, but unpaid staffing, stalled FAA projects, and halted control training could lead to longer lines, delays, and even stalled upgrades. When Washington gridlocks shutdowns the government down, history shows that the pain could last anywhere from just a day to more than a month. Since 1976, the longest shutdown happened during Trump's first administration, starting at Christmas of 2018 and stretched through much of January. The length of the shutdown matters. Short ones cause headaches, but the longer they drag on, the deeper the impacts on workers, services, and the economy. Let's talk more about this, right, and what these days really mean when the government grinds to a halt. Our financial guru and friend of the show, Andrew Poulos. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
Good morning, Chesley.
All right, for a family that lives paycheck to paycheck, what difference does a 3-day shutdown mean versus a 3-week shutdown?
Yeah, the average person's probably not going to see much impact directly. I think where the impact will be, depending on the length of the shutdown, will be to GDP and other factors such as government loans, government contract work, things that stem around and revolve around the federal government. And of course, those who will be directly impacted will be government workers who will be furloughed or asked to work without pay until the shutdown ends, right? That's obviously a direct impact. So it just really depends on who you are, where you're at, and what kind of impact you will experience with this. Again, depending on how long it'll take. We're assuming there'll be a government shutdown at this point. All roads lead to this between the Democrats and the Republicans. So we'll see what happens come Tuesday at midnight.
Mm-hmm. At what point does a short-term lapse turn into something that rattles the confidence of markets?
I'd probably say if we go about beyond 2 weeks or so, I think the markets will begin to get concerned. Right now, the markets may not be taking it as seriously. Of course, this is more of a political power struggle, really more than about ACA or government spending. You got President Trump, who's, of course, sees it that the Republicans have power. You got the Democrats who really don't have power, who are trying to create power and some leverage. And so at this point, basically, it's just more of a power struggle. Ultimately, look, we're going to see how this plays out. And depending on how it plays out, the American people will have their day to voice their opinion at midterms next year.
Yeah. Is there a point where small businesses and contractors will not be able to weather a delay?
I think, look, ultimately, like you mentioned, the last shutdown was under President Trump's first administration, lasted 35 days. I really don't foresee this lasting too long, and one of the reasons why is the Democratic strategy is, and their pitch is that this basically has to do with the ACA and the health care credits. You got to remember, November 1st, the open enrollment period begins, and so therefore something's got to be done, whether it's by one political party or the other, between now and November, in my opinion, in order to try to contain any potential risk and damage to health care and the subsidies. So I think if we see it shut down, I don't personally think it's going to last more than about 30 days, but time will tell. It just really depends on who wants to have the power and how much and how long they'll hold out.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't last that long. Here in Georgia, Andrew, we have our fair share of federal workers and contractors. How does the local economy feel the length of a shutdown compared to the national average?
Yeah, look, we'll probably have some effect. The GDP will be affected to some extent, basically. Ultimately, I think at the end of the day, if the shutdown's not too long, reviving those channels that get shut down or are slowed down in the process of a shutdown will basically come back to life and begin to get a jump start, right? So you're talking about FHA loans, you're talking about government contract work, you're talking about, we have, Air Force bases, military bases throughout Georgia. So all that will be impacted. But at the end of the day, if it's shutdown's not too long, all that is going to just revive and get kick-started, and people will be back to work with pay and back pay if they've been furloughed rather quickly.
We got 30 seconds here. I want you to give your best advice to a family that may be worried about a delay in their federal benefits or paychecks.
Yeah, listen, if you're a retiree on Social Security, you're still going to get your benefits. There might be a slight delay, but the administration has said that benefits will be paid out. If you feel that there's going to be a direct impact because you're a federal worker who's going to be furloughed, you got to try to do the best you can. Hopefully, not live on too much debt until this government shutdown ends. If we do, in fact, get into one, but you just pretty much have to try to manage your finances as best as you can based on what you've got to be able to make it and hopefully be able to survive a few weeks. Again, hopefully it doesn't last more than a few weeks.
All right. Andrew Poulos, my friend, your friend, and financial guru. Is that purple that you got on there?
That is your favorite color, Chesley.
Hey, man, you look great.